All right, so welcome everybody to the Google Drawings Power Hour. Again, you can get the slideshow with the link in the chat that I just put in the chat. You can also get to it from the short link I have up here, up at the top right of my screen here, bit.ly/draw some stuff that will get you the slideshow for today. As long as you're signed in with your Google/school account, you either click on that link or type in the bit.ly short link there. This whole slideshow will be saved in your shared with me folder in your Google Drive. Once you get in here, give a click on the sign in here button in the bottom left and go ahead and sign in for me. This is just how I'll take attendance. If you're watching this recorded session, you don't have to sign in. I'll also put the link in the chat for you as well. Go ahead and take a moment to get signed in for me. Again, just use your email, your name, and then pick today's session, which is Google Drawings Power Hour. And just make sure you spell your email correctly so I can send you a certificate of attendance for today. If anybody's having any trouble getting there, just let me know. And as we're going throughout today, if you've been to some of my trainings before, I see some familiar names in the chat. But if you have any questions as we're going throughout today, feel free to type into the chat. You can also unmute yourself if you have any questions as well. All right, so with that said, we'll go ahead and get rolling here. So of course, my name is Dan Neeson. I'm a technology integration specialist at NeoNet. Here's my email, dneeson@neonet.org. So if you have any questions after today, feel free to shoot me an email. Again, you can get the slideshow through the short link up in the top of the screen here, bit.ly/draw some stuff. Just type that into your address bar, and that will get you this slideshow. There's a bunch of links and pictures and some good resources and stuff in the slideshow. So there's a bunch of goodies in there for you. All right, and here's our to-do list for the day. So I was a high school social studies teacher, and this is how I would set up my learning objectives for the day. And so I kind of carried over this idea for these to-do lists. And so here's ours for our power hour today. So we'll look at some important functions and skills in Google Drawings. We'll look at how Google Drawings works with Google Classroom. We'll basically just take a dive into lesson and activity ideas. Depending on how much time we have, we'll maybe do a little bit of practice time. It kind of depends how much time we have, just so I don't keep you guys past 4 o'clock. And then we'll do some sharing and wrapping up at the end. All right, so first thing here, here's kind of all of our basic buttons here in Google Sheets. Big thanks to Casey Bell from Shake Up Learning. If you've never been to her website before, first of all, it's just a super useful website. She has a ton of good resources and information out there for using Google things in teaching. Not only Google stuff, but also lots of other technology tools in teaching. But anyway, so here's all the basics here. You'll notice that a lot of the buttons here in Google Drawings are the exact same buttons that show up over in Google Slides, because that's kind of the core of it. A Google Drawing is pretty much just a Google slide, but just one single slide. So it's a really nice, easy way to give yourself a canvas to draw things on. All right, so like we see in this little graphic down here, we have the drawings menu where you have your file, edit, view, all those buttons there. You can favorite it, you can move it to a different folder. All those buttons look pretty much the same in whatever Google app that you're using. So nothing really different or surprising there. But we'll take a look at some important functions and skills first here. So we'll just take a quick run through each of these things real quick, just to get the basics out of the way. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into a actual Google drawing, and we'll start with the Insert tab tools. All right, so if we start off just in a Google Drawing and we go under the Insert tab, again, this stuff looks almost exactly the same as it does over in a Google Slide because, again, they're very similar. A couple things that you'll notice aren't here is there's no option for video and there's no option for audio. I'm going to show you guys a workaround in just a minute for as far as videos go, but we'll get there in just a moment. But a couple of the basics here. So of course, this is where you can bring in an image. You can upload one from your computer, do a search the web where it just opens up a little mini version of Google Images off on the side over here. We can also bring in images from your Google Drive or any pictures that you have saved in your Google Photos. You can also bring one in by URL or with your camera, meaning your webcam. Below that, we have our text box, so you can just easily draw out a text box of any kind of dimensions that you need. You can still use the kind of space off of the canvas, this kind of gray area off to the side. You can still use that. It'll still be saved, of course. A lot of the times teachers will make some sort of graphic organizer or something like that in a Google Drawing, and then they'll have a text box off to the side over here that has like the instructions, so it's not taking up any space like on the actual canvas itself. Other things in our image, I'm sorry, in our insert tab rather, is next thing down here is shapes. So of course, again, this is the exact same stuff that you would see over in slides, where you can draw different shapes of various different types, put in arrows, call outs, which are like your speech bubbles, equation shapes, all that good stuff. One of the big things that you can do with shapes that I think is really, really useful is like drawing out circles or squares in order to like highlight something like on a diagram. So if you put on like a background picture of something or whatever it is, and you can have like a circle like this, and then you can have it be transparent in the middle by coming up to this little fill bucket here and then clicking on transparent. That way the inside of it will be transparent. We can even maybe make the border like a different color. If I want to make it red and make it the border a little bit thicker. That way you can have a nice like thick red circle here that's transparent in the middle that you can use to circle different things on a diagram. So for example, if we did a little Google image search here, I just do map of the world here as an example. And it's the students' jobs to circle a particular country or something like that. Just super simple activity, right? So you could just tell them, okay, circle the continent of South America. Okay, they're supposed to move that circle over there. One thing you'll notice here, I try to move my circle over and it's not showing up. It's underneath. Hey, there it is. It's underneath my actual picture of my map here. So in this case, this kind of brings me to a nice little natural segue to talking about layers. So if you ever have something like this where you have a picture going underneath or an image going underneath of something else and you need it to be sitting on top of something else, what we can do is just click on one of the items that we need, go into the Arrange menu, and then go under Order, and this is where we can change the order. So what we want to have is this like map, in this case, be at the bottom level, be at the back. So I'll do Send to Back. There we go. So now I have the circle staying back there in the back. I'm sorry, the map rather, staying in the back. This little red circle is sitting out here in the front, so it's nice and easy to see and move. Okay, so if you're ever trying to like make a diagram like that, super easy way to do that. All right, other things under the Insert tab. So of course, where you can also make tables. Nothing really particularly new there if you've been using tables before, but it's nice if you need to organize some info. You can pull in charts as well. So if you have any charts that you've made over in Google Sheets, you can pull them in, or you can make one basically from scratch here. You can also pull in some pre-made diagrams, which is really handy as well. Let me get rid of my stuff there. When you open up diagrams, this opens up this little sidebar over here. And from here, you can pull in a bunch of different types. They have grids, hierarchies, timelines, processes, relationships, cycles, all this stuff. So you can go into whatever one that you like. So maybe if we do a timeline, there's a bunch of different styles. So maybe I'll do like this like vertical timeline, and there we go. It drops in this template for us that can be filled in with whatever actual details that you need. You can even change however many like dates that you want as well. So if I want like 6 dates instead of just 4, I can pull in that. So notice now there's even more dates on there. And if I want to move this thing around, this is one thing that that you'll notice, especially as we talk more about like pre-made Google drawings that are out there. A lot of times drawings are made up of lots and lots of smaller pieces. So of course, like this timeline is made up of a bunch of like smaller text boxes and shapes and stuff. If I just try to move like this whole thing, if I want to make it bigger and really make it fit the whole canvas, if I try to just move it like this, notice I'm only moving like one piece. So what I want to do is select the whole thing. Easy way to do that is just by start hovering my mouse over like nothing in particular, either off in the gray area over here, or it can just be when you're hovered over nothing. And then when you click and drag, anything that blue box touches will get highlighted. Then all this stuff can be moved all at once. Okay. If I want to resize stuff, I can pull it from any of these blue squares and resize it. You'll notice it can kind of get stretched out in different ways. If you want to keep the same like dimensions, the same like ratio, if you hold the shift key while stretching from a corner, then you can keep the same ratio, even if you don't pull the mouse like perfectly, down diagonally, it'll still keep like the same like ratio, same dimensions, if that makes sense. Okay. And hey, there we go. Just like that, we have a bigger version of the timeline that we started with. And again, if you use Google Slides a lot, when you move stuff around, of course, you'll see those little red guiding lines that tell you when you're centered on the page, that sort of thing. All right. So again, there's lots of good stuff here under those pre-made diagrams. Again, that was just under Insert and then Diagram. Next thing here quickly under the Insert menu is Word Art. So Word Art is a very bare bones kind of simple version of Word Art. If you've been using Word Art over back in PowerPoint and Microsoft Word and stuff, that has a lot more features than it does here. Basically, all that Word Art does in Google here is it really just kind of treats whatever you type in here as like a picture, meaning you can like stretch it in different ways. So I'll just show you an example. I'll just say this is some text. And so you can stretch it out into different ways. So if I want to stretch it out like this, have it be really tall, you can see it kind of gets warped. You can't do that with normal text. You can only do that when it is when it's Word Art. Okay, but if you ever need to have some text have a border, when you're doing normal text as far as Google stuff goes, when you're just typing in a normal text box, you're not able to set it like a separate color for the outline of text and the inside like color of text. You have to do Word Art to do that. So if, for example, I want to have a thick black border and then like a green inside of this text, what I would do is come up to the fill bucket, and again, it behaves kind of like a picture or a diagram. Set the fill bucket to green, change the border color to whatever I want. So I'll do black and maybe make it a little bit thicker, and there you go. So now you have some Word Art going on. You can still change the text style if you'd like as well. Okay, I've seen some teachers make their own like tracer letter, like for like kindergarten, early elementaries teachers. They'll find a font and then do this like dotted style to make like dotted, or maybe the line. It kind of depends on which one you want, I guess. But this will allow you to kind of do those like tracer letter type activities there. So if you teach like early elementary, that's an easy way to make those own things. So if you can't find one that you like out there somewhere else, you can pretty easily make your own just with some Word Art. Big thing that I've heard that some teachers have run into is finding the right kind of text that has like the right kind of A. So this is a total side note, but like some types of text will have like the wrong kind of A, lowercase a. That's like the normal computer type of A, where it kind of looks like a 2. This, like in this font here, Fredoka 1 does a good job of having the the traditional handwriting type of A. So it kind of depends on the type of text that you're using. But anyway, so that's how you can use some word art in a couple of different ways there. All right, now let's go into formatting images. So let me go ahead and drop in a picture here. I'll just do a map again. That's fine. And so what I mean by formatting images is you have a bunch of different options to edit some pictures. This is a nice, easy way to do that. So if you ever find like a picture that you like, but you don't need the whole picture. So maybe, for example, we're doing this map activity here, and maybe we're only talking about the Eastern Hemisphere. I don't need the whole left part of the map here. What I can do is crop the picture, just going up to the crop image button, and then I can crop it over, just drag from that little black line. Maybe I only need this part of the picture, and hey, there we go. Now I only have a part of that image. Pretty easy. Another thing you can also do, as far as cropping goes, if you single click on a picture, come up to the cropping button again, but instead of clicking right on the crop icon, you click on the little arrow next to it, and you can crop it into a different shape. So like in this case here, maybe I want to crop out like the white background there. So what I can do is maybe do like a rounded circle there. And hey, there we go. They got rid of that little white area. As you can, if you're able to kind of tell, it's kind of hard to see. But you can crop things out into different shapes. And of course, we can do whatever other shape that we want. So we can crop out a certain part depending on what type of crop that we're doing. Okay. Other things here, when you single click on a picture, you can also go into format options here. And this is where you can really kind of like fine tune the picture itself. You can change it. You can really fine tune its size and rotation, its position on the page. This is where you can also recolor it. So you have some kind of automatic options here that let you recolor it into some different colors there. Adjustments is where you can change the transparency of a picture, its brightness, its contrast, those sorts of things. So if you ever have a picture that's like you're trying to make like a design or something like that, this is good for like art projects as well, where kids themselves are making their own graphic design in Google Slides. Those simple little adjustments, changing the transparency, changing the brightness, can really help out. Especially if you're making your own graphic, if you have a darker colored background and some lighter colored text sitting on top of it, it makes it a whole lot easier to see. And you can also make your drop shadows, and you can also do a little reflection on here too. Okay, pretty easy stuff. Next thing here is connecting lines. So this is really good for making your own graphic organizers, really good for like making flow charts, that sort of thing. So if I'll make a really simple like hierarchy real quick, just with some shapes here, I'll just put in a square. I'll do Control D a couple of times on top of that square to duplicate it. And there we go. So I have a couple of squares. I just want to have maybe like a little hierarchy graphic organizer real quick. What I can do is after I make my squares, I'll come up to this line button up here, and I'll choose the type of line I want. So if I want like an arrow or just a line, whatever I want, I'll probably just do a line. And what I'll do is I'm going to connect this line to the little purple dot that comes up when you start changing the size of the line. As soon as you come close to one of the shapes, you'll have these different, little purple dots that show up on each edge of that shape. Then I'll do another one on the other side. Change the size of this guy, connect it to those little purple dots there. And now the cool thing about that is, even if you move the shapes, you'll notice that the lines are now attached to those shapes. And you can change them, make them a different color, make them thicker, whatever you want to do. Okay. And again, you can do those for arrows, or you can do curved lines, that sort of thing. Let's see, Aaron says in the chat, is there a way to draw lines within the shape? That's a good question. You can, if you just kind of put them on top of the shape. So what you could do, like for what purpose, I guess would be my question. Would it be to like divide up a shape into like 4 pieces or something, if you're talking about fractions or something like that? My son's art teacher made him draw a dish rack that we could not figure out how to do that. Oh, that's interesting. In fractions, yeah. So I mean, you could do it in kind of different ways. It depends what shape that you're doing. Yeah, I mean, probably lines would be the easiest thing. They don't have to be connected to those purple dots when you draw a line. So you could just draw a line out. Oops. And once you draw it, it could be, centered up and everything. And it's going to take some fiddling for sure. A couple other things that you could also do is, if you, like in this case, if I wanted to split up this square into 4 pieces, I could just technically make 4 different squares. That's another thing you could also do. Yeah, you could also copy and paste the line and then position it. Yeah, it'll take some fiddling with it for sure, to kind of get it the way that you wanted. Yeah, it really could just come down to drawing out lines, drawing out shapes, and then the big thing too is using those little red guiding lines to center things. That way you know that they're in the center of the page. So if I center the square first, and then I draw a line. Another side note, real quick too. If you hold the Shift key while you're drawing the line, that'll keep it straight. It'll keep it level. That's another little thing too. So then if if I want to move this line and have it be dead center, of course now it's centered on the page. I could center it a little bit better. There we go. So now this line is centered horizontally and vertically. So now that's dead center right on top of the square, if that makes sense. All right, a couple other things real quick. Colors. So as you notice, when we first come into a Google drawing, the background is like this white and gray checkerboard. So what that means is, by default, it's going to be a transparent background. So if you want to change that, so if you're making your own graphic or something like that and you want to have a different color background, a couple options you have. One, you can just make a square and just fill it out to the size of the canvas. So you could easily just do that and fill it up so it matches up to the size of the canvas. Then you can make it whatever color or design that you want. The other thing you can also do is just right click anywhere on the canvas, go into background, and then you can make whatever color you want. Of course, you can make it like a gradient color, whatever you like. Okay, that way it wouldn't move at all. It would just be a static background. That's just a color. Now, one thing to note as well, when it comes to downloading these things, if you want to keep a transparent background, make sure, again, it stays as this white and gray checkerboard here. But if you want to download the picture or graphic that you make and still have it be a transparent background, you have to do File and then Download, and you'll want to pick a PNG. A PNG is the type of picture file that lets you do a transparent background. Okay. One other thing about transparent backgrounds, if you ever find some pictures out there somewhere and it doesn't have a transparent background, but you want it to have a transparent background, there's this awesome website called remove.bg. It's the name of the website. And it's a really, really cool website. Let me show you how it works here. I'll just do a picture of a dog real quick here. So if I find a picture, of a dog here, and like I like this picture. Yeah, let me make this bigger here. So like I like this picture, but I don't want the background. Like he's against the wall, but I just want him. I don't want the wall behind him. So what I can do is I can take a picture, just drag it on over into remove.bg, and it's going to automatically remove the background for you. And hey, there it is. Notice again, it has that white and gray background to it. We'll just download it. Then we can bring it on over into our Google Drawing. And hey, there we go. Now I have a transparent picture of this dog. And, I can put in some word art. I can put in additional pictures. I can put in whatever I'd like. So maybe I'll do a little word art thing real quick. He's a good boy. Okay. I'll do a fun font in there. There we go. And when I go to download, I'll do a PNG and I'll do a JPEG actually real quick, just to show you the difference real quick. So here's the JPEG. So you notice on this one, it has a white background, just defaults to a white background. Here's the PNG. And actually, that was a bad example. Let me pull that into, let me pull it into somewhere else here, just as an example. While that loads up. But anyway, so you'll download it as a PNG if you want to make your own graphic or picture that has its own transparent background. But again, this website here, remove.bg. So even if you find a picture that has that doesn't have a transparent background, you can drop it in here. It automatically will make it transparent background for you. You can also edit it if you need to. So if it didn't do it perfectly, you can make those changes yourself. So it's pretty cool. Let me just show you this real quick here, because those were both a transparent background here. So if I have go to that. Let me pull in my two different doggy pictures here. So if I have like a background that looks, that has some other color, and I don't want it to be like this, here we go. Let me shrink it down a little bit. There we go. So there's our difference, right? So the picture on the right, this is the PNG that has the transparent background. One on the left is the JPEG that does not have a transparent background. All right. So that's just the difference real quick, just to show you that. All right. Page setup real quick as well. So if we go under the file menu and go down to page setup, it's like all the way at the bottom. It's like the third thing from the bottom. You can change the size of your canvas. By default, it'll be just a 4x3 square. You can also change it to widescreen. So if you want to make your own like thumbnail for a YouTube video or something like that, those are 16:9. That's the aspect ratio for those. You can customize it to whatever you want. You can even drag this little triangle that's at the bottom right of the canvas. You can customize it to whatever shape that you like. Okay, I'll show you guys the way to do a customized Google Classroom banner background. We'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. All right, so dragging, scaling, cropping, we kind of talked about that already. The arrange tab tools as well. So again, that's just ordering. So if you ever have like something slide underneath of something else, make sure it's in the correct order just by going up to the arrange menu and then changing the order. Next thing here is hyperlinks. So hyperlinks work just like anything else, any other hyperlink that you do. So you can make hyperlinks out of a picture, you can make hyperlinks out of some words, whatever you want. So if we have just a picture and we want to make it into a hyperlink, just give a single click on the picture, find our hyperlink button. You can find it up in the toolbar or Control-K. That will also work. And you can make it go to, whatever website that you need. It can go to a specific, article you want students to read. It could go over to a video you want them to watch. It could go over to an assignment that you want them to go do, whatever it is. And of course, you can do the same thing for a text box or a shape as well. So if I make a little text box and I say, you know, click here, and again, we'll just make a little hyperlink on top of that. You do have to highlight the word or phrase. Maybe this one will go to weather.com. Right, and I'll go over to there. And you can also do the exact same thing for shapes as well. So if you're using some shapes, it can even be a triangle. It does not matter. Okay. So you can make hyperlinks out of anything. Now you notice I said you can also have hyperlinks go over to videos. And like I said earlier, you could also have videos show up right here in Google Drawings, even though there's not an option here under the Insert tab to do it. So here's your little workaround to do that. So if you want a video to show up like embedded here in into Drawings, the first thing we have to do is actually go over to Google Slides first. From Slides, we'll go ahead and drop in the video like we normally do in Slides. Go to Insert Video and put in, you know, whatever video that you want. I'll just search for crash course videos, just as an example. And so there we go. And now we have our video in here. And again, if you're not familiar already, you can change the start and stop time for the video. You can change its position and all that good stuff. And once you're ready, you just right click on top of it, do a copy, bring it over to your drawings and just paste it right in. And again, a lot of teachers will do like some video instructions or something like that. So let me zoom out a little bit here. Oh, that's too zoomed out. There we go. So sometimes they'll have like video instructions or something like that, that they'll have a video kind of sitting off to the side, right? And let me kind of make this a little bit bigger here. Let me go back to a normal view here. There we go. So we'll have, you know, a video sitting off on the side over here that students can watch. And so you'll tell them, watch this video and then do this graphic organizer that I have on here or whatever, move these, you know, draggable pieces to the correct spot on this diagram or whatever it is. Okay. And to watch the video, they just double click on top of the video. And there it is.
What's 1,000 times thinner than a piece of paper? More.
Okay, so you can drop in videos pretty easily. It's a little bit of a workaround to do it, but you can do it. All right, then our last thing here was exporting. That's pretty much what we talked about already. So if you want to download a Google drawing and have it be a transparent background, again, download it as a PNG. If it doesn't matter, you can do JPEG or PNG. All right, next thing here too is if you want to insert GIFs, of course, GIFs are those awesome little movable pictures that you can drop anywhere. So easiest way that I found to do it is with the Giphy extension. I have it linked here on slide number 6 for you. So if you just get the Giphy Chrome extension, or you can just go to the Giphy website, you can get them too. But I find this extension really, really useful. Super easy to use. So you could just search for whatever you're looking for and just drag it right into your page. You can even go into the stickers sections, and those are transparent background GIFs that you can drop into your Google Drawings or wherever else you want. One thing to note about this, Google Drawings does not let you save things as GIFs, so they'll only be saved as a still picture, so it won't be any moving there. So GIFs in this case would only be useful if you're only giving these whatever diagrams or whatever you're making in Google Drawings, if you're only giving them digitally. Okay, if you're planning on saving them or anything like that, they'll only be saved as a still picture, if that makes sense. Okay, so real quick, just to show you that, I'll just open up my Giphy extension here. And so if you want to have like have a regular, have a little happy GIF in here, you just find one that you like, drag it on in. It's always going to have the GIF itself and then like a link to the original Giphy site where it is. That just shows up as a text box. So you can just delete that text box that's there. And then you can have this little GIF show up there for you. If you'd like to have a sticker, so again, those are the transparent background GIFs, just go into the sticker section. And this is particularly good for like circling things or like doing like arrows or something like that. So again, if for example, I'll just do this little circle over here. If for example, you are, doing some sort of diagram activity, some sort of thing where there is a picture in the background and you're just trying to draw their attention to a certain aspect or a certain part of that picture, you can just have that picture sitting there, which is, a normal still image that you just pull in from whatever. So if I do, diagram of the heart, that works. We have a diagram of the heart, and we're trying to have point them towards the aorta or something. Again, let me move this towards the top here, arrange to the front. Here we go. And so now we have this little moving circle, which is a lot easier to see. Let me kind of make this a little bit smaller here. There we go. So now we have this little moving circle, which kind of draws their eyes to a certain part of the diagram that you're trying to teach them about. And again, this exact same thing will work over in slides. So if you're doing the same thing for your regular slideshows, like for your lectures and stuff, you can still have those little circles or little arrows in GIF form, so that they kind of draw your eye to them. Like in this case, I would actually probably try to recolor this this little circle because it's kind of light. So what I would probably do is actually go into format options for this GIF here, and I'd try to recolor it actually. See if I can get a little bit of a darker color. Maybe change it to like a green. I kind of like that better. There we go. It's a little bit easier to see. So again, you can recolor. You can even recolor GIFs as you put them in here. Okay. And of course, just like all your other Google stuff, you'll be able to, everything auto saves, everything's saved in your Google Drive. It's accessible from any device, all that good stuff. All right. And my 4 GIFs that I have down here, this little pointer and Jonah Hill and the Grinch and this other blue arrow here, all those were just GIFs. I just pulled them right from Giphy and dropped them into the slideshow. So they're, again, really good for pointing out to certain different things. All right, a couple other little tips here. Number 1, when you want a uniform circle or square, hold down the shift button. Same works for pictures as well. Just hold down the shift button as you're resizing something. That'll keep it the same dimensions. Number 2, format your image shape. So again, we talked about this already. You can go the little drop down arrow next to crop, and then you can crop them into different shapes. Number 3, you can force others to make a copy of your drawing. This will also apply to other Google files. So if you're giving something out to other people, maybe not even just your students, you can actually force others to make a copy. You will start by making a shareable link. And then you edit the shareable link, find the word edit that's in the shareable link, erase it, and then in its place, type copy, and that'll force whoever clicks on that link to make a copy of whatever that file is. That's essentially what Google Classroom does for you when you set a file to make a copy for each student. It essentially does that for you. So if you're not a Google Classroom user, or if you're giving something out to other people that aren't in your Google Classroom, that's the trick for how to do that. Number 4, use a shape or word art with text, so it's easy for students to move items around. So if you have like a movable like tile activity where you're having students move shapes or pictures or some words or phrases into like different spaces, like in a T-chart or into like different categories, something like that. It's easier if you make word art or you put them inside, put the text inside of shapes, not just regular text boxes, because those are a little bit hard to move sometimes. So putting them inside of shapes or word art is a little bit easier to do. All right. Next thing here is using Google Drawings in Classroom. Basically, it's kind of the same thing if you've been using Google Classroom for a while. There's nothing really new here. The big thing is make a copy for each student or assign 2 groups of students. So what I'm talking about here, I'll just do this, I'll call this a chart diagram. And let's just say I want to send this over to my Google Classroom. depending on if I want to have this go to individual students, have them make a copy, if I had some questions or something like that attached to this file itself, or either I just had some questions just kind of sitting here on the canvas, or if I had like a link over to a form that I want them to go do, whatever it is, I can decide all that stuff here. And there's nothing particularly new if you are a Google Classroom user. But it works just like any other Google file. So I can go under Add, pull it from my Google Drive, because again, that's where all your Google files are automatically saved. There's my heart diagram. And again, I can decide whether or not students can edit, view, or make a copy for each student. Okay. And again, like I said, if you need it to go to certain students and not others, so maybe this diagram is only going to the group made up of Chris and Debbie here, it'll only go to those students. So whatever the actual activity calls for, there's no exceptions. There's nothing new here as far as Google Classroom and Google Drawings go. It works just like any other Google file. All right, big couple things here. There's kind of three major ways to use Google Drawings in class. This little infographic here was just made from empoweringELLs.com. This is focused more on English language learners. The same rules apply for any kids, but there's three major kind of ways to use Google Drawings. The first here is drawing to teach content. So of course, teachers can turn any sort of concepts or ideas or instructions into images, diagrams, maybe flowcharts, just to teach. So for your direct instruction purposes, you just need to make your own diagram. You just can't find anything easily that fits what you're trying to show to show your kids. You can just make your own graphic pretty easily with drawings. The second way here is drawing to learn content. So of course, students can digitally create their own images and diagrams, flowcharts, whatever it is, to show what they've been learning. And then the third here is manipulating items. So of course, students can collaborate or work independently to sort, label, organize items in a Google Drawing to demonstrate what they've been learning. Okay, so again, you can make one completely for yourself, just for direct instruction. You can have students make something completely from scratch for themselves, or you can give them basically like a template kind of activity thing where they're supposed to move things around or answer some answers, or fill in a graphic organizer of some sort. So there's a bunch of different options there for you. Lots of good places here on slide number 10 to find ideas. So here on this first link here, this is just a Google site that somebody made that just has a ton of templates for different purposes with Google Drawings. So slide number 10, and there's a bunch of templates in here. There's, if we go into the templates tab, you have lots and lots of different templates for different purposes, for different subject areas. You can have all these different social studies ones, all these different math ones. All these are templates. They're all free to get. So if if you're a science teacher and we're working on the solar system, we can look at this solar system drag and drop activity. We'll go up and use this template. This is just making a copy of this original one, but now it's editable by me, and I can make whatever changes I need, and then I can just go and send it out to my students. All right, as this loads up for me slowly here. That site, the link is on slide number 10. It's just a Google site, so it doesn't have like a easy to remember name. So it's on slide number 10, that first link there for you. Let me zoom out a little bit. There we go. And so, of course, on this solar system activity, this is just one example here, but this is now a fully editable Google Drawings activity for me to go give to my students. Like this one's actually all done, ready to go. This is just a simple drag and drop activity where students are moving images of each planet to the correct spot in the solar system just to get the order of the planets down. Okay, very simple activity, and it's already pre-done and ready to go. So if I wanted to use this activity, I just go throw it right in my Google Classroom, and it's ready to go. All right. And again, on this website, there's a ton of these. There's an absolute crazy amount in here. So they're all free to use. You can search through here and find whatever one that you like. There's some tips and tricks. So it's definitely worth, browsing around on this site. There's a bunch of good stuff on here. All right, next thing here is from Eric Kurtz at Control Alt Achieve, and he has a whole like playlist on his website here for all different sorts of Google Drawings activities. So all these everything linked here. Again, this is the second link on slide 10. So this one has a post about 7 googly wintertime activities using Google Drawings. This is where I learned about that background removal tool. There's different writing prompt activities, story cubes using Google Drawings. There's a bunch of stuff on here. So again, this is kind of why I give you guys all these materials here, all these resources. Just go explore. All right. One other one here is from Shake Up Learning. And this one also just has more templates, more examples, more resources here for you guys. So this is her kind of playlist of all her things that she has put together for Google Drawings. So there's Halloween magnetic poetry. If you've never done the magnetic poetry things, this is kind of a cool idea. It's basically, you basically just have a Google drawing with a picture of here it is. So it's just a picture of like a blank fridge, and on the margins, there's just a bunch of words sitting by themselves, and students' job is just to grab words from each side and make a sentence or make poetry out of it. It's kind of a fun, open-ended kind of activity. All right, so excuse me. So again, all these templates are here for you guys. They're all free. All this stuff here is free stuff that you can just go grab, filter through, see what kind of tickles your fancy. All right, a couple other things here. We only have about 10 minutes left, so I'll kind of go quickly through here. Student badges is kind of another idea, another way to implement using Google Drawings. So student badges are basically a way for students to have their own like avatars in class. As you can kind of see from this picture here, it's used to track where students are at in the learning process. So if you have like a larger project that you're doing or something like that, each student has their own student badge that they make and then just turn into you. And then you just print them all out. You stick them up on the wall or the window, and then you just kind of move them to the right spot on the wall, depending on what it is. So like in this case here, all the student badges here, if they're moved on to like this little completed forms activity, then they're done with that. It's kind of a visual cue for where everybody's at. Simple, kind of fun activity. This next example here is kind of a specific example about brain development, and it's usually a complicated topic, but this is where using Google Drawings to break apart a tough subject into smaller pieces and a way for students to kind of visualize things a bit better. So you can kind of have things like this where you really make your own infographic. And if you think about it here, this is using vegetables here to make it less gross, I think. But they're just using pictures, and then if all these little different boxes around the side, they're just text boxes with arrows pointing to different parts of the brain and just filling out these different explanations for the different definitions rather for the different parts of the brain. Okay, this is kind of another kind of same idea here. But again, it's the same idea. There's just some sort of background picture, and then these are just text boxes or squares with arrows pointing to different parts of the brain. And again, of course, you can change out the brain for whatever content that you actually need. And there's another example. That's ground beef, not brain. I guess we're thinking about it, it's not any less gross if you think about it. But anyway, so there's other cool templates and different activity ideas that you can also do. There's also social media templates, kind of like fake social media templates, like fake Twitter and fake Facebook and fake Instagram templates out there. Basically, the idea is if you're ever talking about an important figure in history or an important author or whatever it is, it would be a student's job to fill in this fake Facebook or Twitter or Instagram template. If that person were still alive, what would their what would their Twitter account look like? What kind of stuff would they be tweeting about? And this is as a fun, simple activity. I was a social studies teacher. I taught high school social studies. And when we were talking about the Cold War in U.S. history, I had kids do a fake Twitter account for Joseph McCarthy. So it's kind of a simple thing like that, kind of simple, fun activity. And it's just a fun little activity for students to do, and it's still a worthwhile thing to do. There's templates out there as well for those. Okay, digital posters as well. So you can, of course, make your own digital posters. That's kind of a classic use for Google Drawings. So instead of kids taking out poster board and all the art materials and everything, you just make your own graphic in Google Drawings and turn it in digitally. Okay, kind of same idea here that we see from Animal Farm. And of course, you can do your own charts and different graphic organizers. On slide 22, this link, I believe, goes over to a page from Ditch That Textbook, where there's another 25 free Google Drawing graphic organizer templates. Of course, graphic organizers are crucial in so many classes. And on this page here, he has 25 different graphic organizer templates already done. So you have all your classic stuff like Venn diagrams, KWL charts, timelines, cause and effects, all this stuff. There's 25 of them in here. So again, they're all free, all there for you on slide number 22. So all that stuff is there. And again, just making them simply in Google Drawings, and you can just give them out to kids digitally through Google Classroom or whatever LMS you use. And just like that, you can have a graphic organizer done, ready to go. All right, a couple more examples there. So, grammar practice thing, kind of these different parts of speech practice things. Then you can have like drag and drop assessments that kind of simulate some standardized tests. So getting kids ready for the EOC error tests and getting them used to those drag and drop questions, which they may not see that often. So you can kind of simulate those easily in drawings just by something like this. You just give them, in this case, we just have a simple math example, and it's students' job to put these in the right order to answer this math problem, and they would just drag each of these boxes to the right spot in this little diagram. Or it'd be something like this as well. One other thing I'll mention real quick as well is this website called Shapegrams. This is kind of a cool website. The shapegrams are pictures that are designed to be recreated using shapes, lines, and colors. The replicating the pictures helps develop and practice visual observation, spatial awareness, logical reasoning, and critical thinking. The basic idea is that you give kids a picture that's completely created in Google Drawings, and it's their job to replicate it as best they can using only the shapes, using only the shape features. So like if they're given like this house here in the middle, it's their job to replicate the house using only those normal shape buttons in drawings. So they have to draw this red square and figure out how to make the window like that, and figure out how to make the door like that, and the roof and the chimney, and doing that sort of thing, and using only those shapes. They can't copy anything. That's kind of the rules there. This is a cool website. There's some free templates on there as well to use. There's other ones that you can pay for, but there's some interesting stuff on there nonetheless. I'm running out of time here, so we only have a couple of minutes left here. You can also create digital escape rooms or scavenger hunts by creating invisible links and kind of hiding them and giving clues to them throughout your drawing. So if you want some examples on slide 29, that is available for you. All right. A couple other things real quick, since we only have 2 minutes left here. If you want to make your own custom Google Classroom banner, here are the steps to do it. Just make a Google drawing. You go into File, Page Setup, and change the size of the canvas to 1600 by 400 pixels. And then you can draw whatever you want on there. Save that image, and then just upload it right into your Google classroom. And then just like that, you have your own custom background. The one thing to note about this real quick is if you do upload your own custom background banner thing to Classroom, it puts over like this like gray film over your picture. So you generally don't want to make your picture too dark, or else you won't be able to see it very well. So lighter colors kind of tend to work better if you make your own background in Classroom. All right. Since we're just about out of time, we'll have to skip past all the practice fun stuff here. But there's our to-do list. We started with important functions and skills, went into Google Drawings in the classroom, and looked at a bunch of lesson and activity ideas, all the free templates and goodies that are out there. We kind of had to fly through our practice and share time. But that'll pretty much bring us down to the end. This is our power hour, so we kind of fly through and go through a bunch of stuff over our hour together here. Real quick, here's our upcoming sessions. This will be actually the session is our last one until we come back after a winter break here. But coming up in January, we'll have more goodies. All these sessions are free to come to. More of these I'm trying to make in the after school hours. So a lot of them will be starting either at 2:30 or 3 p.m. So there's what's coming up: making the most of Chromebooks, best practices for remote and hybrid learning, tech for vocabulary practice and assessment, Equatio and Google Forms for math quizzes. And you can see the rest of the training menu there on slide 34. If you're interested in earning graduate credit for coming to this session, just look on this slide number 35. So feel free to check that out. For Heather, was that, were you saying that for grad credit? Oh, the banner. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I didn't see that come in. Cool. Anyway, so for grad credit stuff, if you're interested in any of that stuff, just follow those instructions there. Of course, if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out. But that will pretty much bring us down to the end here, everybody. If you have any other questions, again, feel free to shout out dneeson@neonet.org. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Again, if you're here live with us, go ahead and sign in for me. I'll put the sign in link in the chat again for you. And again, there's a survey on the last slide if you're so inclined. But other than that, that'll bring us down to the end. Hopefully the session was helpful for you. Again, if you're watching this recording, you don't have to worry about the sign-in button there. But other than that, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you have any other questions, let me know. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, all that fun stuff. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks, everybody.